Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for staying on for this session as well. I have the privilege of interviewing once again the 2014 World Entrepreneur winner representing India. So that's a doubly special moment for all of us back home in India. Mr. Kotak, thank you very much for joining us here this morning. A lot has changed for you since 2014. Your bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, has gone on to do an acquisition. You're now India's fourth largest bank. It would be naive for this audience to imagine that the World Entrepreneur title or the World Entrepreneur Award determined your strategy to go out there and do that acquisition. But did any of the insights that you learned from the World Entrepreneur experience help you in the process of making that acquisition?
I must first say, Shereen, that last year was a fascinating experience, and I really enjoyed being here. Unlike many other awards and recognitions which professionals and entrepreneurs get, this one is special because it comes with a lot of credibility, and there is no, to use a traditional terminology, there is no question of fixing it. It just has to be done right, and the process is awesome. Another point I must mention is last year, there was this thing when I came in here, most people said, if you're a banker, you're not going to get an award because, you know, in the Western world, bankers are not really looked at as appropriate for awards. But India is different. India is a 1.2 billion population, very few genuine bank accounts, 300 to 400 million. So there is that huge entrepreneurial ability to do in the financial sector and expand. And the whole idea of institution building by entrepreneurs is the core to what I feel. And that's something which I said last year at the point of receiving the award. Go out there, and how do entrepreneurs continue to move away from an individualized company to institution building? And that's the journey I've gone through over the last 1 year.
Excellent. Let me pick up on some of the points that you talked about. And you said bankers are usually the disliked community. And you know, it's a fact, especially post-2008. How important is trust, building credibility, reputation? You know, do you give more credence to that, or do you give more credence to the fact that you show up on the Forbes richest list and so on and so forth? Does market cap matter more, or does the trustworthiness of your company as well as your individual organization matter more?
I believe it applies for all industry and all businesses, but particularly in banking. I follow three human principles. Number one is the principle of prudence. Therefore, if you are in a leverage business, which banking is, you better be prudent and don't take disproportionate risk. The second important point is keep it simple. Simplicity is the key. You know, complexity or disruptive creation is something which is not right for our business. And third and most important, we are not masters of the universe. We have to be humble. Therefore, three human principles are the core to how I look at the future, which is prudence, simplicity, and humility. And it's something which we follow in everything we do, and it works for us.
What has been the biggest lesson for you as an entrepreneur over the past 12 months? And also, if I could ask you, there's a lot of young entrepreneurs here in this audience. If you could evaluate your own entrepreneurial journey, if you could go back in time and do something differently, what would it be?
I think first, the most important point which is relevant for me as an entrepreneur today is doing well and doing good can happen together. They are not two separate boxes. And as you build your journey of doing things well, as you grow, as you get successful, doing good can be an integral part of that entrepreneurial journey. And this important...
It's good to hear a banker say that.
Yes, but I think Indian bankers have a lot which they continue to do for society in a country of 1.2 billion people. And another very important lesson as an entrepreneur which I'll share is enjoy the journey. Please don't focus on outcomes. So go after the joy of the journey, and outcomes cannot be the motivation for the journey. It has to be the joy of the journey itself. And as I think about what I would have done differently, probably I wish I had the advantage of modern technology 20 years ago. We were in a very different real world, and this transition from the real world to the digital world is one of the biggest challenges and opportunities we face in financial services. I wake up every morning wondering whether I will have a bank or an Alibaba has taken over India.
Is that your biggest fear tonight?
That is my biggest challenge. It's an opportunity because I think India has a lot of opportunity in digital, but the digital arena and the whole consumer interaction is transforming the world so dramatically that we better grasp it from the point of view of an opportunity, or else we will be history.
So how are you positioning yourself to be able to tackle this challenge and make sure that you convert it into an opportunity?
Simple. I think we've got to be closer to our consumers, our customers, because a consumer is dealing with a completely different consumer experience on a Google compared to a bank. So where are we? What are we doing to improve the customer experience to a level which is very different? And most of the time we take protection under what regulatory forbearance or protection we are getting from the system. But at some point of time, the regulator will move in favor of the customer. And this obsession with so-called security and risk, which are important, is going to really hurt banks because they've got to move beyond the immediate to a world-class customer experience, whether it's digital or real, and we have nowhere to hide under the protection of regulatory system.
All right, Mr. Kotak, thanks very much for taking us through what has been a very exciting 12 months for you. But we are going to talk about some of the dilemmas that entrepreneurs face, and I would like to now invite on stage Dr. Jean-Paul Clozel, the co-founder and CEO of Actelion Pharmaceuticals, the winner of the World Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2008. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause. And also joining us here this morning is Mr. Narayana Murthy, the founder of Infosys Technologies, one of India's leading technology companies, the winner of the World Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2003. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here, and welcome to the World Entrepreneur Awards. Mr. Murthy, let me start by asking you, because you won the World Entrepreneur Award in 2003. The world has changed in 2015. It's very, very different. Do you believe that it's easier being an entrepreneur today than it was in 2003?
I wouldn't say it's easier. There is competition. Ideas could come from anywhere in the world. Earlier it was mainly US and some parts of Europe, but today it could come from any part of the world. Therefore, there is much more competition amongst entrepreneurs to use the power of their ideas to transform this world. At the same time, the opportunities are many more. Therefore, on the one hand, there are much greater opportunities. On the other hand, there is much greater competition. Therefore, I would say that the entrepreneurs of today are trimmer, they are nimbler, they are smarter, and they have the power to impact the world even much more than we did.
You know, you mentioned competition, and let me get the three of you to talk about that. And let me start by asking you, Mr. Kotak, how do you look at competition? And you know, some CEOs say that we don't wake up every morning looking behind our back to see what our competitor is doing. Some CEOs say that we are our own biggest competitors, and it's important to assess and evaluate your own performance and don't worry or focus on what the competition is doing. How do you assess the competition? And then I'll come to you, Mr. Clozel and Mr. Murthy.
You know, there are two things in life which you figure out only after it has happened. One is opportunity. Oh, either you made the opportunity or you missed it. And the second is competition. Competition is not what you see, but there's always somebody out there, not directly in your eyesight, who is going to eat your lunch. And your ability to look beyond the immediate, whether it's opportunity or competition, is the key. It's the sixth or the seventh sense, which you won't see straightforward. Very often companies think about competition as, oh, A, B, C. It is very often not who, it is about how. I mean, look at the way Apple changed the whole game on music, computers, cameras.
Yeah.
So I don't know how watch companies are looking at the Apple Watch. So we really need to think about competition in a very different perspective from the way we looked at traditionally.
Mr. Clozel, let me ask you, how are you looking at competition, and what advice or lessons would you like to leave the audience with?
You know, for us, we are dealing with drugs. We are dealing with terrible disease. So what I used to say to my collaborators is the real competitors. These are this terrible disease. This is really what we have to fight against. So we should not think of fighting against this company or this company. We have to fight against these bugs, this virus, these genetic diseases. And that's where our fight has to be focused. And if somebody finds a better drugs than our drugs, maybe it's very good for the patients. So this is a scientific race, but this is not, as people would say, direct competition.
Right. Mr. Murthy?
Well, you know, as my friend Rahul Bajaj once said, competition is the greatest management guru in the world. Without competition, we would not learn how to strategize better. We would not learn how to execute better. We would not learn how to keep our customers happier. We would not learn how to retain our employees. We would not learn how to follow the best principles of corporate governance with our investors. Therefore, we must all remember that competition is the greatest management guru.